the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
It's Tim Albright with AVNation, with an AVNation special, taking a look at healthcare AV, ways that integrators can service and better design and implement audiovisual for the medical community. With us to discuss that very thing, Brian Morris from Shem, Milsom, Wilke. Welcome, sir.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. And from Sennheiser, Mr. Steve Wingo. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So medical, right? Medical AV, looking at healthcare. It's an area that if you're involved in higher ed or involved in, let's say, corporate, it might not be an area that you are familiar with, especially some of the challenges. So, Brian, we're going to start with you on this. When you're looking to design a system and design it specifically for, let's say, the operating room, what are some of the challenges that AV designers and integrators face when providing the needs for those spaces?
So for operating rooms, that's one of the most difficult environments for audiovisual capture and for live streaming because of the constraints with the booms and the equipment, lights and monitors in the surgical field. So you're constantly moving, trying to figure out where the best angle is for a camera. And you're also trying to figure out the best optimize the audio because it's difficult with all the ambient noise within the environment. So one of the things that over the years I've learned and developed is that if it's based on cases, what's being actually type of cases taking place in the OR, it makes it much easier to understand where the placement can go and whether you can be flexible with, putting it on multiple walls, for instance, for cameras and so forth. So the audio, though, has been the biggest problem that we have because audio, with all the ambient noise from the ventilator, from the anesthesia station, from the alarms going off constantly within it, refrigerators in the room, and of course the HVAC, which is the laminar flow above the surgical field, we have just an enormous amount of exchanges of air. It's very noisy. And in the past, we've used omnidirectional and dynamic microphones and all kinds of things to try to find the best approach, even mounting microphones on the monitor. Of course, that's a problem. What if the surgeon turns the monitor the other way, away from them, and they can't actually be heard clearly? So that's a problem. So one of the things that we've had the most trouble with is trying to optimize audio, especially for remote teleconferencing and learning environments and telementoring.
All right, Steve, Brian mentioned the noisy environment. Take a look at that and kind of talk for a second about how you can solve for that issue.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely a specialized kind of solution. And Brian's been using, in some of his projects, our Team Connect Ceiling 2 microphone, which is a ceiling-mounted microphone. You can put it on a wall if you like, but it has a very focused beam, if you will, a pickup area. Yeah. It's a 30-degree beam, so it's real specific and real accurate in how it picks up audio that you want it to pick up. There's also the availability to exclude certain areas, like the HVAC, other noises, other machines in the room, where you do not want the microphone to point towards. You can create what we call exclusion zones, and you're just telling the microphone, don't go there. That way it stays focused on the things that you want it to focus on.
All right, Brian, really quickly, in the setup to this and in the conversation that we had with you and Steve beforehand, we're talking about latency. And, latency can mean different things to different people, different markets. If you're in education, it means one thing. But you said something about low latency being so incredibly imperative. Why is that to this market?
Well, one of the main concerns is that it's almost a hand-eye coordination type situation when you're showing a remote surgical procedure and you're speaking through it, talking about the processes as you go. It has to be, absolute. You can't have delays in the audio. It's confusing when the outside viewers are watching the case. So that's part of it. The other part is that when we have communication with like pathology, a lot of times we set up systems that have Teams or Zoom, the PHI version, so that we can communicate with the pathology lab. They're showing either grossing specimens or they're showing the frozen section of the cancer margins, we'll say, for instance. It's very difficult for someone to follow a conversation. It's almost like any conference call when it's behind what if it's not absolute with what you're indicating on the margins and on the samples themselves. So again, it has to be as synchronous as possible between the audio and video. And that's one of the reasons that we plug our cameras in the OR into the microphones for frame, so it's frame accurate. It's locked exactly with the audio.
Steve, when you look at, Sennheiser and the Team Connect 2 and other products, how do you guys see those products and Sennheiser in general performing in the operating theater?
Yeah, and that's a great question in relevance to what Brian's talking about the controlling the cameras too. One of the things is we do within 5 milliseconds, we're sending out beam coordinates. That's the azimuth and the elevation. That's that's sent out every, if the position moves, it's within 5 milliseconds and all within 3 to 5 degrees.
Wow.
So, and that's sending the information that Brian needs for the camera control to be able to get that frame accurate setting and positioning for the camera. So that's one of the things we do. Again, just the quality of the audio, because you can't skip a word, right? You have to hear everything just the way it's spoken, and for a lot of reasons. And so we do have a superior audio quality that we're proud of at Sennheiser, and that's one of the things we do across the board with every product we make.
From my experience, and this has been a great addition to my kit, shall I say, is that using the Sennheiser Team Connect 2 microphone, it overcomes almost all the obstacles I need it to. I have the ability to have exclusion zones to eliminate certain areas that I don't want to hear. So for instance, if there's a refrigerator in one part of the OR in the back, I can eliminate much of that noise, and it does a wonderful job of covering everyone in the room. And that means whether it's the circulating nurse at the nurse documentation station, or whether it's the people in the surgical field, or even techs or orderlies coming in and out of the room. It gives all the audio support that we typically have been missing all this time. And as I said before, by plugging the room microphone into the microphone, we get frame accurate results. So it's very lifelike, very real, and it's very effective for both recording and remote streaming. In fact, I think with Sennheiser, it's been the only exception of us being able to really eliminate a lot of the noise and to hear everyone clearly in the room.
Steve, let's take a look at, and Brian, same kind of question to you, is Steve, where do you see audio in the medical space evolving, right? We've already talked about low latency. We've already talked about frame by frame, making sure that that's as seamless as possible and, quite frankly, delivered as quickly as possible for two-way communications. Where do you see this evolving?
I think that in the OR space especially, you're really fighting for real estate. It's a small amount of space you're able to place a microphone. So in the future, we're addressing that by smaller microphones that will do exactly what our current microphone will do. We're able to put in a lot more spaces as a result. And but yeah, providing the same service, the same frame accurate information that a camera might need, same audio quality, not sacrificing anything, but giving up a little bit of that real estate.
All right, Brian, same kind of question. Where do you see the audio and the video as well evolving in this space?
I think a lot of what I'm speaking about with the Team Connect 2 with beamforming microphones or microphones is that we eliminate a lot of the having to place microphones in strategic or particular places in purpose-built rooms. We can eliminate that now and have much more flexibility by putting a good example is you'll see grand rounds conference rooms or meeting spaces in healthcare, and it's very difficult to butler a microphone between several physicians or techs or other people involved in nursing staff in the session. So it's so much better that it's all consolidated, a couple of ceiling microphones, the Team Connect 2, and I can cover everybody in that space, and it makes it much easier for everyone in the far end to hear. Same with tumor boards and other remote educational or accreditation type environments. The other case for it is that even using it in medical simulation, I use it all the time in skills labs because it affords the ability, again, to reduce the clutter of microphones directly above each bay. I can easily put several ceiling microphones, Team Connect 2s, and I can steer the beams the way I want them, knowing the particular layouts and configurations there will be for the teaching experience. It has optimized a lot of my simulation space, especially in medsim and in nursing.
All right. Guys, as we wrap up here, Brian, we'll start with you on this. What does Sennheiser have within their toolbox that other mic systems do not have that serve this medical community better?
I think that Sennheiser's always been, a superb audio company, and I've used many of their microphones over the years in traditional AV environments and also in medical environments. But I think the real decisive difference is that even with other array beamforming microphones, I've never been able to get the kind of isolation of all the participants in the room that I can with Team Connect 2. And I mean that in all environments that I put it in. And I think that's really important because it's, the number one complaint we hear in healthcare is that the audio quality is just, it's not acceptable. And so it has really been a huge change and an improvement in my designs. And I don't think that really there's another microphone that can offer that type of quality and separation. So I'm greatly appreciative that it exists because it's made my designs a lot easier. And the operating room was unquestionably the most difficult environment just because of the ambient noise.
All right, Steve, same kind of question. What does Sennheiser have that is unique and better serves the medical community?
Well, I think part of it is the fact that we're brand agnostic. We will work well with anybody. So whatever Brian or another consultant decides to use for DSP, whatever codecs he decides to use, we're going to play well with anybody. And I think that's really important to make sure that you're not limited to the scope of equipment that you wish to use. So that's a big deal for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gentlemen, thank you both so much. Brian Moores from Shem, Milsom, Wilke. How do people connect with you or SMW?
Our website is www.smwllc.com, and my email address is bmoores@smwllc.com.
All right, very good. And Mr. Wingo, sir, how do people connect with you or Sennheiser?
Yeah, I am always at steve.wingo@sennheiser.com, or you can go to our website at sennheiser.com.
All right, very good. I'm Tim Albright for AVNation. You can go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv, and find more specials just like this one, all that and more at avnation.tv. avnation.tv.